What's up, everybody? So today we have a 0809 GSXR 750. It's essentially the same exact thing as a 600 except for the inside displacement and fork color. These engines are actually very identical to the 06 through 16. I think even newer than that as well. I think the 19s and stuff like that have the same cover, just different stator as far as length and wire and stuff like that. So what we're going to be doing is replacing the whole cover because this was a theft recovery. And you can see that they went down on the stator cover side there and kind of slid. So what we're going to be doing is completely redoing the cover here, which that means we got to take the cover off and then take out the starter gear, put a new gasket on there, and then also take the stator out of the cover that it's on and put it on a new cover. So I'm going to show you the tools that I have, and basically this is all you need. While you're at it, may as well do an oil change because we're going to be draining the oil anyway. So if you want to go pick up a filter and some oil, you should be good to go. Okay, so what you're going to need is a stator cover gasket, a stator cover obviously, 8mm. You might want to get an extension as well because it's there's one bolt inside that you got to get off. A 17mm for your drain bolts, which we're going to be doing pretty much an oil drain, so you're going to need oil, and then you may as well do a filter while you're there too. And red Loctite. This is very important, very important. So what happens to most people who replace their stator, they'll take it out, they'll put it into the cover, they'll torque it down, and a little while later that stator ends up coming loose. There's 3 Allen bolts in there, and all of a sudden that wire that was in there got chewed up. So what happens is you can clean most of that copper out, but I have actually experienced myself when I first started working on my own bike was that copper probably got into the engine, into the oil pump itself, and then the oil pump obviously got clogged, which means there's no oil pressure going through, and I definitely got a rod knock. So I can't emphasize more to get some Loctite. I definitely recommend red because it's just what it should be. I wouldn't use blue or anything, but yeah, so we can go ahead and get started. First step, drain your oil and then just let her go. So let's get into it. I like to move the pan out of the way when I'm cracking it so I don't punch the oil pan below me with oil in it. Yours might be empty, but yeah. So go ahead and get that drain bolt loose. Okay, next step, these 3 bolts here, go ahead and get them out. They are 8mm. Pull them out. Once they are, this is the trickiest part. So inside here, there's a starter gear, some washers and stuff like that. You want to be extremely careful getting those off. So get a flathead, kind of just pry this top off. You can also hit it with a mallet. Okay, once you get it to start coming out, be very careful here. So you'll have this come out. You can just put it down like this, and then inside, all in the back, there's a washer like this. Be very careful, you don't want to drop that down in your engine. That just goes right here. So go ahead and put that on top, get that out of the way. Once that's there, there's an 8mm in here as well, and that needs to come off. So go ahead and get that off as well. And this one's a little longer than those 3 bolts, so you'll know which one goes back in. Okay. Again, be careful, you don't want to drop this in the motor. All right. 8mm out. Okay, next step is to get all of the 8mm around the case off. So, 1, 2, 3, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So go ahead and start getting those off. And then the next step will basically be taking the cover off. same side. Once you have all those out, okay, once you have all those out, this thing is magnetized here. So when you start to pull on it, there's actually going to be a lot of resistance on the case. So just be careful because you don't want to squish your hands if it gets kind of drawn back into the engine. So I like to rock it back and forth at first, kind of get it to come off a little bit here. Move this wire out of the way. Okay. There are tabs if you need to use them on the sides again. Use those tabs. But basically, you want to get it off the starter. Pull back. Sometimes they are very hard to get off because the starter has a gasket up here. So, if you need to, like I said, take a flathead and pry that thing off. If it's bent, it might be hard to get it off that starter up there. So you might need to get a little help from a screwdriver. There we go. So now this, like I said, it's magnetized. So it comes off like that. Okay. And it just comes off. I'm gonna have to take this dowel pin, okay, and put it on this case. So basically it's just gonna go right in here. And then I'm gonna take the stator out and put that stator in here. So it's literally 3 Allen bolts and then this one here. That one holds the wire down and then you're almost ready to go. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, it should be a 4 and 5 millimeter Allen. Okay, top one, 4 millimeter. These should be 5. It's a lot easier if you use a ratchet and sockets. You're gonna have a way better time. So since this case is already damaged, I'm not worried about ruining it. So go ahead and just get these bolts out here. Okay. Then we're gonna switch over to the 4 millimeter. And undo this one as well. There we go. So that bolt, stator comes out, and then you want to make sure you have this as well. Okay, now that your old case is off, get the dowel pin out. Get your new case and set it in. Make sure it's pushed all the way in, okay? So you're gonna need your Loctite and your bolts for your stator. You kind of set it. You can move this rubber piece down actually as well. Kind of get it there. That way you know where it's gonna go. So that's how it's gonna sit. Okay, so the first thing I do is I take a bolt. We're gonna have to take that one back out, but just to get it set. Okay? Then the next thing I do is I take the other bolt and drop just a little bit on there. Not too much, a little bit goes a long way. So go ahead, place that in there. I'd say hand tight for now. Okay. Get your other bolt again. Then get your 5 mil and tighten those ones down. It's probably easier. I'm trying to do this without any support here so you can see it. Okay. Tighten that one down, and then we're going to take this one back out and also put Loctite on this one. So this sits like this, and it literally goes over the wire and then there's actually a little notch down below. You'll be able to see it. There's a notch down below that it kind of rests on, or in between. So that's where you want that piece. So the way I do this, I get the bolt on here, guide it through, and then I'll at least start the bolt. And as you start going down, you can obviously move the wire itself and the mount here. So I will show you. Should look like this, okay? And you just want to keep tightening that thing down. Pretty much like that. So that's how it should look. Okay? This piece then comes down and sits in there. Alright? Like this. So that's how it sits. Okay? So, next step, get your gasket. I like to take a little bit of oil, could be the old oil, and coat it. I dip 2 fingers in, basically like this, and then I coat it. It helps stick a little more when you're putting it on, that way it's not moving around. You don't have an issue trying to get it in. Get it in. Get it in. Okay. So, obviously, this is going to sit on here, but what I like to do is put it onto the stator cover itself first. You line it up with the holes, okay, just like this, and I turn it around. Be careful again with your fingers, this is magnetic. Get it lined up, okay. You can kind of see where the gasket's going to sit when you're putting it on. So you can maneuver, you can pick up the actual stator cover while you're doing it, and then move the gasket with your finger when you're putting it all the way on. A little bit, so you can literally pull it back just a little bit to move the gasket. Literally. So you pull it just a little bit, move the gasket with your fingers, then he's moved, and then you'll be good. So just double check there's no gasket coming out wildly. If there is, it's obviously not lined up, but you'll see for the most part. Then take your long bolts here and just make sure that they're in a little bit, because then you know you didn't get the gasket wrong. So when you start threading them, you want them to be threaded. If they don't thread, that means the gasket's in the way. So when you thread them a little bit and you pull back, you'll know if it's threaded. Because obviously if it wasn't, you'd just be able to pull it out. Just get it hand tight and use the socket, or not even hand tight, but where you can use the socket on it. I always do all of these bolts by hand as well. I've broken them off the first time I was working on my bike, so now I don't do that. Okay, so go ahead and get your ratchet. Tighten these bolts down. I like to crisscross them like a tire, basically. That way you can kind of get it leveled. I put that one in, didn't tighten it all the way down just because we'll get to that in a second. So just get this one to go down. Okay, so to get the starter gear back in, basically there's this washer up top, which was in there, the gear itself here, and then you have the pin, the bearing, and then 2 washers there. So what I usually do to put this in is I take those 2 washers off. I make sure this washer's here, because we know this is going to go towards the back. So I put it around there. I stick this in, and I seat it all the way back. So you know it's going to be seated, it's not going to move. Then I take this, and so these gears here, the big ones, have to align with this, and then the small ones align with the starter. So you put this on, and you may have to like play with it and twist it a little bit to get it all the way back, but this one actually just went back first try. So you'll know because the space is here, you can see through to the flywheel there, but you'll have room on the pin here to put the other washer. So that's when you know it's not, or when it's back all the way. If it's not back all the way, it's gonna go like this, and it'll probably, you know, you're gonna be hitting the gears together. It's not gonna go all the way back. So you kind of have to like turn it sometimes and get it to go into place. That way, you know, you can get it there. And then you have the thin washer. So that goes in, or on. These damn gloves, I should have put them on all the way. And the another hard washer here. So once you get those on, you can gently let go. Take this cover, gently just kind of start to put it on there, and then hit it on either with your hand or a mallet or something like that, and then obviously just twist it to where the bolt holes are, and then put your bolts in. And that's pretty much how you put that in. That's the easiest way. If you try to put the assembly on with the cover, it's just hard because that pin, you got to set that, and then you got to get it, you know, in a perfect spot so that way the gears aren't hitting each other and all that stuff. So it's just kind of a pain in the ass to do it any other way except for that. That's just really easy. That way you can see it's already set, everything's in, and it's good to go. All right, so that's a 2006 through 19 Stator cover replacement. Once you have all those bolts tightened down, make sure everything's good. There's no gaskets sticking out, anything like that. Add oil to the bike and go ahead and get her started just to make sure everything's good. You shouldn't hear any weird noises or, you know, clunking or anything like that. And if you're actually just replacing the stator, you can keep the cover the same, obviously, but it's the same thing. You got to run, or actually follow the wire from the stator inside the cover up to the rectifier, unplug it, put your new one in, and then plug it in, and you should be good to go. It's the same thing, but you're just not replacing the cover. Same sequence, same process, everything like that. So anyway, guys, I hope this helped. If I can do it, you definitely can do that as well. It's not too bad. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and let me know. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward.